35 people watching. That's the main channel, not all the other places.
Oh,
Plus 2.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Dark Shad-Bros. It's been a while. Actually, I think it's been almost a month.
it is a month.
Since we did our
It's actually a month and 5 days.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Where did the time go? But it's fun to be back. It's nice to be back. I think my backdrop tonight, my tarot card screen is very apropos for at least one of the characters that we're going to be discussing
I'm trying to show more of it, but I can't.
this evening. No, there we go. Who do I have? The Hermit? I've got the Hermit right above me, which is so not me, by the way. I am not a hermit in any way, shape, or form. But it's good to be back, and we're getting into spooky season. We are getting deeper and deeper into spooky season. First of all, for those of you who don't know me, and there's no reason in the world why you should, my name is Peter Mack. I work primarily in musical theater, cabaret, as a Judy Garland tribute artist, singing all live, no lip sync. I wrote a book about Salem, Massachusetts, and its ties to the witch trials as portrayed on film, about 90 years worth of film, television movies, teleplays, and for which Laura Parker did the foreword to that book. I also wrote a modernized adaptation of A Christmas Carol called Mrs. Scrooge, which turned out to be Laura's last official off-Broadway show. Have produced Dark Shadows events with Marie Wallace and Donna Laundrie, and been a fan of the show. Started when I was 4, officially when I was 12, and onward, ever onward. So that's me, and now I'm going to turn it over to one of our other bros, so to speak, Michael Panzerato. Woo!
Hello, everybody. I am Michael Panzerato, and I'm so very excited to be back. It's been a harrowing few weeks, and I think that this is going to be not only fun but therapeutic. I am also an actor, not of any real note, but my main vein, so to speak, is I do a lot of jet work as Jonathan Harris or Dr. Zachary Smith. You can see that all over pretty much any Lost in Space fan site. I'm somewhere plastered on there. I have been a fan of Dark Shadows since I was about 8 or 9 years old, maybe younger. My dad turned me on to it as a kid. He and his mother watched it together, and I don't think that they went as ape over it as I did. But I'm still a fan. I think the show has still incredible potential, and it's wonderful to talk about, and it seems to have endless material to talk about, so I'm thrilled that we get this chance to engage with each other and all of you guys, and that's me, and I'm going to leave it to the real brains of this outfit, the tech man, the guy who drives the Enterprise, Dr. DTC.
Oh, gosh. Does that make me Scotty or Sulu? Oh, my favorite. Especially when it's Zachary Quinto. So I'm Dr. John Mack. I'm Peter's husband. We've been together for 22 years, and we haven't had a fight since this podcast started. But we are so excited that you guys are here. I, too, am a fan of Dark Shadows and have been since Peter and I got together. I've played several characters from the show on stage. I was one of the Jennings. Mostly I played, oddly enough, twice. I played Grayson Hall as Dr. Julia Hoffman. We'll talk more about that, I'm sure, later on. And Peter's also played her, and a bunch of other of our...
And you played Velma Dinkley in Scooby-Doo and Barnabas 2.
Jinxie! Yes, I did. And currently I'm playing B. Arthur as Dorothy Zbornak in Salem, Massachusetts through November 3rd. So that's where Peter and I are at the moment. We are in Salem, Massachusetts, Spookyville, so this tarot backdrop is appropriate.
Halloween Town. This is it, kids. This is officially Halloween Town, yeah.
Before we get too deep into everything, I just want to... We have a few... RJ!
Oh my God, RJ. Well,
hold on.
There you go, RJ. So you're very much a part of the show there.
That's
So,
R.J. Jameson, who wrote the definitive Grayson Hall.
Grayson Hall, A Hard Act to Follow. Grayson Hall's official biography.
I actually didn't see R.J. originally, but I did see Leif Schimmer, who wrote All Hail Grayson Hall, the Big GH, her fans are legion. We also have a comment from RJ says, hello, John and Peter. Hi, back to you. Much love to you. You look amazing in your profile picture.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there. Let's see who else we have here. Leif Schimmer says, hi, RJ. So, hi, Leif. And then, of course, we have Carrie Perwicka, who never misses. Hello, guys. Looking forward to another fun night.
In fact, there's something I need to grab.
I want to let our differently abled audience members know that this show, we are going to be uploading our shows to places where you can get podcasts so you can listen to this. I know that several of our visually differently abled friends just listened to it already. And we are currently streaming with subtitles. So you can enable that in Facebook and or YouTube. If you have any questions about that, please send me a private message and I can walk you through how you enable that. So sorry for all the technical stuff. Back to you, babe.
No, not at all. Well, first of all, here we are. We're in the thick of spooky season, as I said a few moments ago. So I know you're obviously getting into the mood because you were listening to Vincent Price read the Horn Book for Witches. Is that it?
I was reading it.
Oh, you were
because
reading
of listening
it.
to Vincent Price.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yep. He does it beautiful, and his voice is amazing. You know.
He should have been on Dark Shadows. That's something we'll talk about somewhere down the road. But Vincent should have been on. Hey, Renee. We love you, Renee.
Renee, much love to you, honey bun.
Renee, whose great love in life is Johnny Carlin. I know.
Many of us too. Angel Heart Collins is here. Hi, Angel Heart.
Hey,
Thank you for tuning in.
So here we are in the thick of spooky season and getting ready. We haven't really done anything as yet, and we live in Witch City. We haven't really done all that much. I will say what we've been doing is the Golden Girls Lost Halloween episode, which it was kind of bittersweet because, last week marked Laura Parker's, what we call her 1-year angelversary. She passed away on October 12th, and John and I got to be very close with Lamar, her, Mary Lamar Rickey. I met Laura the first time when I was 12, and I was totally intimidated that I was going to meet Angelique. And I walked up to her, and she looked at me with those eyes and gave me a big smile and said, those dimples, I could plant flower beds in those dimples. And all of my intimidation immediately fell away. And she basically watched me grow up. And, I got to work with her, and as I said, I wrote her last off-Broadway show, and she wrote the foreword to my book, and we miss her heaps. It's hard to believe that a year has passed. I put up a Facebook post where I said, how fast does a year go by? It's crazy. It just doesn't seem real that she's not with us physically anymore. But wherever you are, Mrs. Hawkins, as we always refer to her, or Mrs. H, she would sign off with us. We love Mrs. H, was in all of her emails and stuff. We love you and we miss you. So, and I know that's true for all Dark Shadows fans. But we've been thinking a lot about Lamar this past week.
I don't mean to interrupt you. But,
sure, I'm reading.
But this is the 5th person who has said this. So they're all on edge waiting to hear you do the Julia Hoffman voice again. We're not going to ask you to do it now. It'll come naturally and organically through the episode.
I was happy. I was so happy that when I did it a few weeks back that it went over like people really... Because I've done Grayson many times over the years, so... she's fun. She lends herself very well to the world of tribute art. The same way Jonathan Harris. Those kinds of personalities, where they really were theatrical, and there's something there to imitate. It's kind of like you look at our stars today, and there's not too many of them that are imitatable, if there is such a word. I think you would agree. You're agreeing with me there. Yeah.
Um,
100%. They had unique, distinctive voices and diction and the rhythm of their voice, the cadence, their movements. Nothing like that today. Absolutely nowhere.
One of the things we did for our audience members that was partly bittersweet was our housewarming present from Lamar was her portrait.
Well, the show was written, the Lost Halloween episode, because the Golden Girls never did one. So I decided to write one, and by that point, Lamar had already been working with us in the comedic one acts I was writing for the Dark Shadows festivals. She was like, I want to be in them. So about a half a dozen times, she reprised her role of Angelique in these shows. And we did one called Golden Shadows, which Lamar, in her typically dry sense of humor, I remembered meeting at the convention, and she said, now guys, listen, we have to be so careful how we say that title. If you say it too fast, it's going to come out all wrong, and it's going to turn into Collinsport Kinky.
Golden showers? That's hysterical.
It's just
I had forgotten
Golden
that.
Ship. Remember that? She's like, you can't say the title too fast. But I had the Golden Girls breaking down in Collinsport and winding up by the old house. Mm-hmm. And Barnabas falling in love with Rose Nyland because she reminds him of Vicky because of her...
I don't understand.
Yes. She's just like Vicky. He's still bemoaning the fact that she went into the past with Peter Bradford, and she's this and she's that, and she's also as dumb as a box of hair. Which we don't think Vicky was. That's the perception of it. She was like Rose Nyland. She was terminally naive. That was Vicky was terminally naive.
Really quickly, in the 7 places that we're simulcasting right now, we just broke 300 viewers. So that is the most people we've had at one concurrent time. Yay.
So when I wrote this show for mainstream, the Golden Girls Halloween episode, I have them coming to Salem, Massachusetts, because Dorothy is teaching the Crucible to her English class. So on their last night there, which happens to be Halloween, they go to the one attraction that has tickets left, the house of Angelique Parker, the only real witch in Salem who died under mysterious circumstances in 1795. And her house burned down, leaving behind only her prize spell book. And there's her portrait, and we have Lamar's portrait from Night of Dark Shadows on the stage that she gave to us as a housewarming present. She had it replicated for us.
It's a good cleat.
Yeah. And I remember John calling her and saying, you're going to be in another show with us. And she was like, there's no convention coming up. What are you talking about? And we told her, and she was like, Angelique Parker? That's not too subtle, boys, is it? But she loved it. She loved the idea, and the whole thing is filled with all of these Dark Shadows Easter eggs. Which at the end of the night, we have, fans saying, oh my God, did you realize that there were all these Dark Shadows references? That's kind of why the Angelique portrait is on stage.
Right.
So we just wrapped that up last weekend, and we're on to another episode now. But yeah, that was kind of fun.
Really quickly, I want to just put this up there. So, there she is. Hold on one second. This is everyone's favorite mom, Geraldine Smith. Hello.
Mom.
But I wanted I wanted to put this up because I did not know this, and I think that this is perhaps a good starting point. To have seen Vincent Price act opposite Grayson Hall, but Jonathan Harris did act with Grayson Hall, as discussed in RJ's fabulous book.
We've talked about that, Michael. That he mentioned working with her, before
and I think he said that Jimmy told me the story that Jimmy Hutchinson that he knew her before when she was Shirley Grayson. Said she had a different name when I knew her, unusual looking lady, and that's how they. And to me, they're very much, male and female. But if you were to do a gender swap, and she'd have been perfect for Dr. Smith. The nose, the aquiline nose, the flyaway eyebrows, all of that. So,
And
very interesting to do.
and vice versa. Interestingly enough, we're just throwing that out there. We're going to have a whole episode where we talk about shadow casting and different casting at another time. But interesting
Now,
observation.
before we dive in, I wanted to talk to Michael about this without doing spoilers, because shame on us. We've been waiting 2 years, and we still have not watched the remake of Salem's Lot. Now, I am looking forward to it because there's a wonderful gentleman, Ben Atinavo, I hope I said it right, Boogeyman Ben. Check out his YouTube channel. He is a the way we feel about Dark Shadows is how Ben feels about Salem's Lot. And he was so worried that the movie was going to be crap, and he gave it like as many thumbs up as you possibly can. He loved it. And I want Michael's take on that before we go and diving into the subject of the night. Go ahead, Michael.
I like it a lot. It's fast. That's the first thing I can think of, and it's because I guess we all, even when you know the story, so you're always looking for your favorite things, to pop up and be there, whatever. But it's done with a lot of love, I think, and a lot of love, not just for the book, but the film, the original film. What can I say that wouldn't spoil? You can see, I think you've mentioned before, the potential for a 3-hour director's cut coming. The impression that I got from Peter Jackson doing that so many times is that definitely they designed it that way, because there are critical things that you've seen pictures of online that aren't showing up in the movie, and you're like, okay, that's going to be in the director's cut, that's going to be in the director. But they do it well because you don't miss, like a person who is unfamiliar with it isn't going to miss these bits. These are just bits as a fan that I loved about the book and the 70s movie, or even the Rob Lowe version that I'm hoping to see more of. But I really enjoyed, the acting is great. The Martian house is great, and there's some disturbing material in this movie, particularly in the beginning, that have been sort of shied away from in the past, that they're not really shying away from in this movie, which I think makes it double creepy.
Yeah.
So
new twists, right?
Yeah.
I know they made a couple of twists. They changed a few things around, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I did see a picture of Barlow, and I knew right away. I said, well, it's definitely an homage to Reggie Nalder, so that was great that they kind of went with similar makeup, not exact, but very similar look to Reggie Nalder.
Right. Yeah, he looks phenomenal. It's like the actor's name is Ward, Alexander Ward.
Alexander Ward.
And he does a lot of those parts, but he does a beautiful job. And I thought this was interesting to me because in the book, Barlow is very much like a Dracula,
yes.
a Barnabas kind of. He doesn't have that look. He's good looking and all that. And it's interesting to me that the fans overwhelmingly prefer the Nosferatu Reggie Nalder look in this story now than they would prefer to see what they did with Rutger Hauer, which we won't bring that one up, but I love Rutger Hauer, but that was not a wise choice.
The weakest link in that movie.
Yeah, so it was. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, we need to do a whole episode. We'll do a whole Salem's Lot episode. My idea I think they listened to the fans. First of all, we're all petitioning for the 3-hour director's cut because everyone is saying you need that. There's a prologue of Ben as a little boy going up to Marsden House, which they did do in the Rob Lowe movie. But there's chunks. They're like, you could see where the chunks are missing, and they just need to put it on Blu-ray and DVD. Just give us the 3-hour cut with the theatrical cut. But my idea was have him be human looking. And then when he's talking to people, but then when he goes into full vampiric mode, that's when he should turn into that Nosferatu. That's his true evil shining through, and that's what, that was my idea, was to balance
They keep the eyes, too.
Yeah.
The glow of the eyes, they keep that in this, which is extra creepy. And it'll surprise you, I think. One of my favorite characters is Father Callahan in the book and in all of the movies. And I think the guy that plays Callahan, I think he's a golden nugget that they're kind of holding back with a little bit. And I think that's what, in the 3-hour. But
exactly. RJ pointed out that Lewis Pullman is Bill Pullman's son. Bill was always a cutie patootie, hottie patati, and Lewis is just as good looking. And a wonderful actor on top of it. So I thought he was a great choice. I thought he was a great choice for Ben.
Back to our diva at hand. RJ wanted to just let us know that Jonathan and Shirley Grayson worked together doing theater in Bucks County at Bucks County Playhouse.
There you go. Like so many.
I would love to have seen that. I would love to have seen that.
Now, you were saying favorite characters, and without a doubt, John and I were talking about the other night the big guns of Dark Shadows. And Dan always referred to Barnabas and Angelique as big guns, but if you go getting into the crux of the show at the height of its popularity, it's Barnabas, Angelique, Quentin, Professor Stokes, and Dr. Julia Hoffman. I mean,
oh God.
And her and Barnabas in particular. I mean,
and Willie Loomis.
Oh, and Willie. You know, Willie is we all love Willie, but the three of them in particular. If you look at Barnabas, Julia, and Professor Stokes, they really kind of there's a thing there. There's a chemistry, and they all work so well together. And I'm sure most Dark Shadows fans who are watching this or are going to watch this probably realize that it was meant to be a man, and it was said on the air. You know, Dr. God, now I'm going to get it wrong. Julius or Julian? I always mix them up.
It's definitely Julius.
You know, one of the top men in his field, and Burke and Dr. Woodard are going back and forth about this man doctor. I need to point out who's probably going to be a little bit like Dr. Guthrie, who we just lost at the age of 94. He passed away.
Oh, God bless him.
Last week. I'm kicking myself because I had his address. He was still signing autographs, and I waited too long. But he apparently was sharp as a tack, and so yes, Dr. Guthrie officially passed away on October 4th of this year. But my guess is that that's where they were going with Julius, or Julian, as it were. That he was going to be a kind of a Dr. Guthrie type character. And apparently, when they made the switch, which Dan Curtis claimed at the Paley Center, was someone inadvertently said Julia by accident. And that he turned around and said, that's it, Julia. Julia Hoffman will make it a woman. And Leela Swift said, you can't do that. We've already said it's a man. And his stock response was, who cares? It's my show. This is it. We're going to make her a woman. Make him a woman. One of the fans pointed out on a board recently that it was Lady, oh God, John, you might want to Google this.
I'm ready.
1966, she's interested in Sam Evans' paintings. That actress, they just released a cabaret album of hers, that she was actually under consideration for the part of Julia Hoffman along with Grayson. I think she did like 2 or 3 episodes where they were going to link her, I think, somehow to Vicky's past was what they were going, and she was good. She definitely had this kind of eccentric quality to her that Grayson had, but Grayson is Grayson. And I do love the fact that Dan says at the Paley Center interview, when I saw her, I said, "Oh my God, look at that face! We got to have her on the show."
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a I don't know if it was Rick.
That face.
Rick Baker. I'd seen he was talking about, it was during a Peter Cushing tribute, and he talked about Peter Cushing had the face for horror, for God, he had the big cheekbones and the very gaunt, slim, long face and the aquiline features, and there's a truth to that. You see that in Tim Burton's films, the claymation films. His characters are always extremely exaggerated, or even his live action films, the Sleepy Hollow cast and all of that. both Jonathan Frid, Grayson Hall, Thayer David, they had looks that made them just perfect for a series like this. Great. She was very gaunt, and those great big eyes and that deep voice of hers, and all of that made her perfect for the show. And Jonathan Frid too had that great thin face and sunken in and high cheekbones and all of that. There's something to having that look for horror. Peter Lorre was another one, had a great look for it, big poppy eyes and stuff like that. So she was, and can you imagine without her? No, we cannot. No, we
Oh
cannot.
my God, no. And in one of the interviews I was reading in the Dark Shadows tribute. Now, admittedly, I have not read RJ's book in several years, so I need to go back and give myself a primer.
If I may interrupt really quickly.
Sure.
The character name who wanted to purchase his paintings was Portia Fitzsimmons, played by, and I love this name, played by Lovelady Powell.
Lovelady Powell. I mean, a drag queen's name if I ever heard one.
I'm Lovelady.
I was thinking the same thing.
So apparently she was up for the part, according to one of the fans.
By the way, I should have just asked RJ because she got to the
I
answer.
know RJ wrote the book
so far before I did.
Please,
sorry.
Join in at any time. We should have brought you into the conversation.
I wish there was
RJ.
a way to bring RJ onto camera.
Totally. She is our Grayson expert. She wrote the book. I know this about Grayson that RJ imparted, that the biggest thing was how much she lied about her age. She took so many years off that when she died and she left Matthew her car, and keep me honest here, RJ, he couldn't get the title because they couldn't get they couldn't get an accurate birth certificate. She had lied on the birth certificate. They were having major trouble. And he said, "You don't understand that my mother was an actress." And finally, they tracked it down. She was born 1922. And I think she said 25, 26. And we did 6 weeks of a cabaret show with Nancy Barrett. And Nancy and Grayson were very close.
Which RJ saw?
Yes, RJ saw that cabaret show. And Nancy had wonderful memories about Grayson. But she said, when I read her obituary, and I saw what she had taken off of her age, she said, I kind of giggled and said, "Gee, dear, you didn't do yourself any favors there, did you?" That was Nancy Barrett's words, not mine. But she loved Grayson. She absolutely loved Grayson. When we're introduced to her, she is so clinical and a little bit unlikable. The hair is so severe. It's piled high. It does not move, which was a very popular hairstyle at the time. Funny enough, Joan Rivers had the same hairstyle at that time. It was a very in look. And but I just think they wanted her to be so austere and so clinical. And that kind of stereotype of the feminist, here's a woman doctor who runs her own hospital. So I think that's where that really very, very rigid look in those first couple of weeks certainly came from. She is just so nasty to Joe Haskell and Sam Evans. She does not want them to visit with Maggie. She gives Dave Woodard a hard time. But man, you've got to also admire her chutzpah. There's a reason she runs her own hospital. It's kind of like Faye Dunaway in Mommy Dearest at the board table. This ain't my first time at the rodeo. That's I think kind of what Grayson is giving off in those early episodes is Julia Hoffman.
Mm-hmm. It always reminds you of Lucille Ball. How she was, stories about her, behind the scenes, how she had to run things, and that same strong voice, the same deep kind of voice. And I agree with you. When she first comes on, it is severe is a wonderful word. She does have a very whoa almost taken aback when you look at her with the hair pulled back and how stern she is. It's very striking. Very much so. She's a little hard on poor Sam.
And she totally knows that Maggie is going to freak out. She totally knows that Maggie it's going to trigger something in her, and it's a great moment. There she goes playing with her fish. I don't even think there's any fish in the fish tank.
Oh, how funny!
But she's running the fish net through it. Do we have a guest?
We do have a guest.
Do we have RJ? Is that it?
Can you believe it? Yay!
Oh my God!
Hello.
Hi! Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Long time!
We've got the author.
Long time! Oh my God!
It has been a long time.
Wait, I blanked out. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Do not mind the
I'm
mess.
I'm right in front of this is a scarf that belonged to Grayson up here.
Oh, how cool!
I love it. Oh my God!
I feel like it's the queen and then the daughter which is me.
That's great.
Oh, so cool!
Well, thank you, RJ, for joining us. This is a really nice surprise.
So cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen you guys in 18 years.
Has to be.
It's gotta be.
When we were all in New York, I'm now in North Carolina.
We're in Salem, Mass.
Nice. I'll have to come up and visit you. I haven't been there yet.
Oh, we'd love that.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun, especially this time of year. It's a lot of fun.
I was just in New Orleans over the weekend. It's Salem or New Orleans. Best places to be this time of year.
Yeah.
Always wanted to go and never been.
Actually, if I can just take 1 second of the broadcast to thank Lori Stone. Thank you for bringing up New Orleans. Lori Stone, a very close friend of ours who we love dearly, went to Richard Simmons' funeral in New Orleans. And
Yes.
I was in touch with Richard within 24 hours before he passed away. And we were messaging back and forth. And anyway, it was so sweet. She sent me the actual program from the Catholic Mass, as well as a fan, because it was so hot down there that weekend, that it said, I'm a fan of Richard Simmons. So anyway, Lori, thank you for sending that to Peter and myself. We are eternally grateful. Okay, back to the show.
They pointed out his elementary school on one of the tours I did.
Oh, how cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, he and the guy who shot JFK, they both went to the same school, elementary school.
God.
Oh, God.
That's quite a leap.
Yeah.
So feel free to chime in here with, again, there's so many myths about...
Right.
And myths.
Again, there was the whole thing, the typewriter, they mistyped the name, and that's how she became Julia rather than Julian or Julius.
Well, it's all secondhand, but what I was told by Grayson's family, and also I think from Catherine or someone else, was that they had auditioned men, and they found them all quite boring. Nobody really popped. And then the idea came somehow to do a woman. And they had hired someone, and I'm on the trail of trying to figure out who that is. It is not Lovelady Powell.
Okay.
And then the second name that I got was Honey Sanders. She was doing Broadway theater and stuff back then, but it was not. I have a third name, and actually somebody's trying to help me track that down and confirm it. So.
Oh, very cool.
But the woman that they did hire backed out, and they were supposed to film Dr. Hoffman's scene the next day when you're introduced to her. And so they went to the casting agent, Michael Shurtleff, who also helped cast Grayson in Night of the Iguana. And she got a call. She wasn't going to answer the phone. She and her husband were, months away from having to move to Ohio because things weren't working out for them in the theater world in New York.
Oh, wow.
And so this job was saved both of their lives in New York City. They both wanted to be artists and stay in the city, and that was about to fall apart. So she decided to answer the phone instead of take a shower. And they said, you want to come do this 6-week job? And she said, sure. She only lived a few blocks from the studio. So she went over, read. They said, your haircut is too sophisticated for this country doctor. Do you have a wig? And she had wigs, and so that's why she wore the wig for the first several weeks
Right.
on the show, because apparently she looked too citified.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Do you know what her hair was like? What was her hair like for real under the? Was it the
She had
short
like
crop
a
that she
Mia
had
Farrow
later on?
pixie
Or?
cut,
Got it.
Rosemary
Oh
Baby
wow.
pixie cut.
Right. Right.
Gosh.
Yeah. Which is why then all of a
And
sudden
then,
they were.
so, right, so while they were doing 1795, supposedly Dan's wife saw her out of a wig and said to her husband, "Don't make her put that other wig back on. That's a cute haircut."
Oh,
It looks
good.
really flattering to her. So,
Yes. Yeah. It
so
was
after they
that.
come back from 1795, Julia gets a whole new wardrobe and a new haircut, and she looks more like a sophisticated doctor instead of a country historian, you know. So
Yeah.
Much.
I think
Much.
that's
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Much more sophisticated. Although she kept at least two of those lovely green. I love those green. The one looks like Wrigley Spearmint gum. That herringbone. You know,
that
that
suit.
green herringbone suit that she wears straight
Yep.
till the end, all the way through 1995. You know, she kept that.
Yeah, and then she had other really nice outfits you only saw once or twice, and you're like, hey, bring back that nice outfit, you know?
There's like in 1968, she's wearing this gray turtleneck with this beautiful sleeveless sweater over it and a pleated skirt. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God. And I think that's the only time we see her in that outfit.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then she also had once, I remember, this really brilliant orange. Well, it was a kind of an orange sweater, and then she had a brilliant orange scarf she wore around, and then she had like a hip belt on with with coins on it. She's walking around sashaying in the drawing room, and I'm all like, "Hey, that's a cute outfit." What did they do? They put an ugly like that green jacket over it. I think it was a rust suit.
Yeah.
It's like never to see the scarf and the hip belt again, you know. So
But she could work those scarves. She really knew how to
yep,
work those neckerchiefs. She was great with
right.
that. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
knew how to do stuff. You were asking about her age earlier too, and I can shed a little bit of light on that, which there's a recent development, right? So I was the one who figured out that she was born in 1922 because I got her elementary school records from the city of Philadelphia during my research. Matthew and Sam really never knew for sure, and they said they preferred the mystery. Um, but they signed the paperwork for me to get the records. And I tried to get her birth certificate, and I sent in the check, and the forms were signed, and it never came, and it never came, and the check was never cashed. So amusing. And then, so 1922 is what her elementary school record said. And and 2 years ago, I was going to celebrate the 100th anniversary of her birth on the Facebook page. And then Matthew said, "Hey, I've been going through." Finally, his parents had both passed for quite a while, but they had, storage lockers and storage lockers of stuff. And he was going through, and he found Grayson's mother's prayer book, and she had written down birth dates and stuff in there. And she again had an entirely different year. And so we were like, "What? What? 1922? What is it?"
Oh
So
my
Wow.
God. So we still don't know
no, mm-mm.
which.
I don't know why Eleanor would have lied, but she had a different year in the beginning of her prayer book.
Interesting.
So
Because I called it. I called
That's
19.
wild.
When it was it 2022? I said we're celebrating the Gray Centennial.
yeah.
Right. I thought that's right.
So that's what we went with. But oh, go
Well,
all right.
like I said, that's what her elementary school record said. So
We'll
Let's
go with that.
let's
the
stick
only
with that.
I figured, Eleanor wanted her daughter to go to school early, so she lied and then forgot the lie. I don't know.
That's wild. That is
That's
so
wild.
wild.
Yeah.
Now,
You guys have any other questions? Do you want me to?
oh gosh,
Oh,
yes.
sure. Yeah. Let's see, because we're now. I've been watching interviews with Joe Caldwell, and he confirmed in his interview that he was the one who came up with she's going to be dumped into a vat of acid. That is how Barnabas is going to get rid of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd love to see those notes if they exist in his papers anymore, because I believe he's still with us. I'm pretty sure Joe is still with us. He wrote his book,
Joe Caldwell's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his 90s, but he's still with us.
Mhm.
But he said that was, and Barnabas does allude to it. He says to her, you know,
Mhm.
they won't be able to trace you because there won't be any trace of you at all. So I guess that was kind of the tee up to the vat of acid. And then I guess Grayson said, now, I don't know how the how on the nose the interviews were for some of those Dark Shadows zine books that came out, that it was her idea to give those longing looks and to play the subtext of I'm in love with him. And that is what saved her from being thrown into the vat of acid.
Right. Right. I think they had chemistry, and they both were supposed to be killed. Barnabas, she was going to be died in the vat of acid, and Barnabas was going to be staked. But they became so popular, getting bags of mail, that they decided not to do that. And she said she was just kind of bored with the character, and so that's why she decided to do that, to give her some subtext. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sam had said over the years, he wrote things to try to show her vulnerability because, she was kind of a ball buster if you met her at a party or whatever. But he said she was a very vulnerable person, and he wanted other actors and directors to see that. And so he wrote for Julia's character, so you would see her vulnerabilities.
Yes. Yeah, well, when she's batting those big cow eyes at him, looking under
Yeah.
her, and just those huge
Yeah.
false eyelashes. She knew how to work those eyes. She knew how to work those eyes. Yep. Yeah.
I'm trying to balance the amount of questions we're getting.
I know we're being inundated.
But
Yeah.
let me ask my question, because I'm really curious about this, and we have heard so many different versions. But obviously, I'm asking you, the episode where she is basically solo in the entire episode, and so much of the thoughts are in her head. How did that come to be? Was that an outcome of a disagreement with one of the writers or with Dan himself, or was that really just to showcase her in order to move the narrative forward from her point of view?
The story that I heard was that they basically broke the budget that week with the other episodes, and so they could only use 2 actors. They only had a budget for a couple of actors. Dan said, write an episode, use as few actors as possible.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that's how that happened.
Because there's someone, I will not name names, we're going to be nice here,
Right.
who for years, and very big within the community, said, well, they got into a huge fight about something, and Dan said, oh, really? If she's that smart, let's let her handle a whole episode on her own. And that story, I was told when I was 12, and I heard it all the way through the Dark Shadows festivals, that is why Julia is home alone, was because she and Dan got into a fight. So.
Well, I heard it from the writer who wrote the episode.
Well, there we go.
I'm going with you. Yes. No, I'm going with your yes.
Totally going with you.
Yeah.
Leaf Shimmer wants to know, when would the acidic ending have happened had she have stayed on the show? Had she have been killed off on the show?
I think the aging. I think after he turned into an old man, I think that's when he would have plopped her in. That's just my.
Because that's what happened in the film. He killed her at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was E.D. Lewis Reviews who asked the question, who, by the way, finally is catching an episode live, so we're so glad to see you, E.D. And Leaf Shimmer is the one who answered the question, and Lee's answer is that the acid vat horror death was considered as a finale in the fall of '67.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you, Leaf.
Well, and the other thing, RJ, I don't know if you've heard this or not. I know Darren Gross had heard about it, but there's nothing to substantiate it. And I'm wondering, is there just a file that doesn't that exists that we haven't found yet of Sam Hall's papers? Because was it Robert Finocchio who ran one of her main fanzine? It was one of the
Yeah. It was
So-
him and Mark. I forget Mark's last name. A young man named Mark as well.
So what they
Mark
said
Messina?
was Mark Messina.
Is that right?
Yes.
Mark
Shimmer, is
Messina.
that right? Was it Mark Messina?
And this was that in 73.
Well, like I said, Matthew's been going through Sam and Grayson's belongings. They were in storehouses for the last couple of years. And yeah, there were things in there that I know he was trying to figure out what to do with. And I'd suggested a couple of places,
Sure,
he
sure.
could.
What they said was that in the zine, and this would have been 72 or 73, that
Mhm.
she said, had we done the second film, it was going to be 1795. It was going to be how
Oh,
Barnabas became a vampire.
hmm,
That the love triangle, which kind of makes sense when you
right.
think that the title was Curse of Dark Shadows.
Hmm.
The working
Yeah, I
title.
don't know much about that. I don't know much about that at all.
So I'm like, oh, I just wish somebody could find the zine. I mean, I know there's hardcore collectors that don't throw anything away.
Right.
But I guess they couldn't find any of Sam's paperwork for what it was to be. But allegedly,
It's on Long Island in some storage unit.
oh please, let's find it. It would be great to have that confirmed that was going to be the movie because everybody wants to know.
Angela wants to know what was the timeline, and or how did it come to pass that Sam Hall came to write on the show? Was it a request from Grayson or something similar?
I love to tell this story because there has been all kinds of BS said about this for years, and it seems that Grayson got the job because her husband was the head writer. Now, for those of you who don't know, Grayson was a Academy Award and Golden Globe nominated, BAFTA nominated actress from her film The Night of the Iguana with Richard Burton and Ava Gardner and Deborah Carr. So she came with some street cred, shall we say. And she got the job. And a few weeks after she got the job, again, she did not live far from the studio. So she always had cast over to run lines or just to have a party. They were New Yorkers. They liked their cocktails. They had parties. So one night, Dan came to one of their little after work parties and he had a lot to drink with Sam. Sam was the bartender. And Dan knew who Sam was because Sam was a writer and had worked a lot in 1950s and 1960s live TV, Philco theater, all that sort of thing in New York City. He had a reputation as a writer. And so, at this party, this cocktail party, Dan said, "Why don't you come work for us?" And Sam said, "Well, that's really nice." But in his mind, he's like, "I know he's drunk. He's drunk." So it was one of those cocktail come work for me invites, he thought.
Got it.
But then behold, the next Monday, and he didn't go to the studio with his wife. And Dan calls and says, "Where the hell are you? I offered you a job as head writer."
Wow.
And so then that's how he got the job. And that was about 6 weeks after Grayson had started work on the show.
Now,
So she got him the job.
you mentioned earlier that there was a stylistically he liked to write in a voice, her voice. What was there? Um, do you know what the first few episodes that he wrote where she may have been featured, and was that in that voice that he spoke of?
Aside from the solo episode, no. It's been a
Tony,
long time, honestly, John, since I've delved into any of this.
it's
So
Tony. It's
That's
Tony
I
B.
often have to get out my book myself to confirm questions I see online. I'm all like, "Wait, is that true? I better go look at my book."
got it, got it, got it. Let me add
It's not
everybody.
tattooed up there.
I got to get my. So when I looked it up a few weeks ago, I believe it was when she goes to hide the diary in Tony Peterson's office that's Sam's first writing credit on the show.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good
Oh,
one.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
different
really good one.
episode.
Yeah.
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 Where's
Uh,
I actually have a little red notebook somebody gave me, and I had it over here.
um, Ben Stone wants to know, how did you get into uh,
Writing the book.
writing the book about Grayson? Was she the character that jumped out at you, or
Well, how to make a long story short. Apparently, I always responded to Grayson Hall's voice because I was a baby when this show was on, and my mother watched it, and she said I always reacted to her voice.
how cool?
I would stop fussing. But many years later, I came across Dark Shadows. I was sick at my boyfriend's house, and he had 500 channels of cable, and I could find nothing except Dark Shadows. I was like, oh, my mom used to watch this, and I got hooked watching it. And then I found the Grayson Hall Yahoo group, and I joined that and made some friends there. And I made friends with Shimmerleaf, and I knew that Shimmerleaf had been working on something for quite a while. He'd written a couple of articles about her, and he was very interested in writing a biography about her. Um, and I was living in the Bay Area in California at that time, and I ended up moving to New York City and told him I would be happy to do research for him, since I would love to go to the Billy Rose Theater collection at Lincoln Center and just get lost in the archives and do stuff for him. And after a while, we just chatted, and he said, I'm never going to get this done. I have other interests now. Why don't you do it? And so he gave me the research he'd done, and I did more. And I met Sylvia Miles, and then met Matthew and Sam Hall, and that's how it all happened.
For those fans who don't know, Peter and I became friends with Sylvia Miles
She was a
later
hoot.
in life.
Oh, God, was she a hoot.
We loved her. She was a Warhol, one of his cadre of folks that he loved to work with.
Factory actresses, yeah.
Some of the hottest scenes.
They were in a play together. Sylvia considered Grayson her best friend,
Oh, how
and they
cool.
lived a couple of blocks from me. And Sylvia, when she got the book, she said, "Oh, it's very hard to read this. So many of my friends are gone, and this just reminds me." So, but yeah, she was a wild dude.
Oh my God. We used to say that Sylvia was everywhere, and she would go to the opening of an envelope. I mean, she was, oh, what a New York character, and losing her really was felt by many, because
her phone number was in the phone book.
yes, she loved to get phone
years
numbers.
after writing the book, I'm walking down 8th Avenue with a friend from college to Columbus Circle. Folks, this Columbus Circle is this big fountain in the middle of New York in front of the Time Warner building where CNN is. And I see her, and I say to my friend, "Oh, I don't know if she'll remember me or not, but I have to say hello to this woman." I get closer and closer, and she's always got those sunglasses on. And she pulled them down, and she's like, "Rebecca, where have you been? Dinner." Blah, blah, blah. And I was all like, I hadn't talked to her in like 4 years. I was like, "Sylvia, you really remember me?"
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
So, and I walked away after talking with her about 20 minutes. My friend looked at me. She goes, "You set that up, right? You set up that whole scene." And I was like, "Nope, that was a New York scene, like happens,
Only in New York.
She was quite special. Yeah, she was special.
There's an infamous set of tapes where Grayson is with a couple of fans, and the fans recorded, so she knew she was being.
She knew.
She knew she was being recorded.
Yeah.
Do you know, having that perhaps as a baseline, and with all of your research and with Shimmerleaf's research, did she have actors or actresses on the show that she gravitated to, loving working with them on screen, and then relationships off screen?
Yeah, I think the relationships that continued. Well, as actors, you guys know, actors have very unique relationships. You'll work with somebody for 6 weeks, and you'll consider that person your dearest friend for the rest of your life, even though you only talk every 5 years.
Right.
So it's very unique. Relationships among the theater or any acting community. But those that she did maintain after the end of the show was Joan Bennett. They maintained friends, as well as Alexandra Isles and Nancy Barrett, and KLS when she was in town. But of course, KLS moved to California. So I think those are the people they stayed in touch with pretty closely.
Got it. One of the questions we've been asked is,
and Nancy told us how much she loved to cook. She said Grayson loved.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that her favorite word was hoo-ha.
Hoo-ha?
She said that was Grayson's favorite word. Hoo-ha.
Hoo-ha.
Hoo-ha, yes.
Of all things.
Yes.
Now, we've been asked this in a couple of different ways, so I'm going to try to put it together as a question.
Okay.
So, as a Oscar-nominated actor, moving to TV, did she honor it as a job and approach it with the same vim, vigor, and professionalism? Or did she think
Yes.
it was a step down?
No, she was very grateful to Dark Shadows because, like I said, and her husband were a couple months away of having to abandon New York and move to New Carrollton, Ohio, where he was from,
Okay.
and he was going to have to manage his father's rubber glove factory. So she was very grateful for the job. She took it very seriously,
That's awesome.
and did her best. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm curious, in your research, we became friends with a couple of people who've written biographies of famous people. And one of the gentlemen wrote a book about Lucille Ball, also wrote a book about Judy Garland. And one of the questions we love to ask is, in your research, was there something that popped out that really surprised you? You went in thinking one thing and came out with another?
Oh, um, well, she had a sort of, I think, very distinct facets to her personality. She was a ball buster and she was a bon vivant in New York City, but she also wanted to be a mother, wanted to have children, liked staying at home and cooking and being with her husband and son. And I know they wanted to have more children, but they waited until they were financially secure. And so and she said she had several miscarriages, but Sam didn't really remember it that way. But uh, she'd been married once before, and that marriage had ended, and she actually had an abortion.
God
This is
bless.
all in the book. I'm not telling tales out of school.
Right.
Um, and I don't know if that led to any of her problems later, getting pregnant, conceiving, and because she was in bed for 7 months with Matthew. She was in a play with
Wow.
Rosemary Harris and Maximilian Schell and Celeste Holm, and she was the
Subways are for
standby.
sleeping?
Hmm?
Was that Subways are for
And she
sleeping?
had to, yeah. No, 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 no.
No,
No?
It was a
no, no.
straight play. Subway
Oh,
for
straight play.
Sleeping was later. This is Matthew was born in 58, so this would have been
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
late 57, early 58. So, so it's on my website. I have a list of all of Grayson's credits, and it's listed on there, but I just don't recall. So that is the thing I would say is like, because once I said something to Catherine, and she said, "Yeah, and who would have guessed she was at home baking cookies instead of, there was this American Life." Had a couple of episodes about fans, and one of them had just loved her and talked about he always pictured her in the bars of New York City, and KLS was like, no, she was at home baking cookies. So,
Um, One of the comments that's been made over the years is that, and it's not said in a derogatory way, but it's often said that Grayson launched 1,000 drag queens, and there are so many amazing homages. Daryl
mhm,
Schaefer's, Richard Halpern's, Peters, I would hope mine.
mhm,
That really have fun with her and really don't make fun of her. And I'm curious
right.
as to, did she recognize that she had a gay fan base?
Well, I know that one of her good friends that she rode on the train with was Divine. So,
No way.
yeah.
Oh my
So
God. You heard it here,
Divine had a
folks.
house up in the Hudson Valley, and they used to ride the train up to their house, respective weekend houses together. And, I don't know because she passed away in 1980, and it was before fandom really got started. And one of my dear friends, who Matthew Martin is an actor in New York City, does some drag,
Sure.
and he loves her. He loved her since he was 12, but whether or not she was aware of that, I don't know. I know she would have been flattered. She loved camp. She loved all that kind of auteur artistry. Um,
And she falls
uh,
into that. She falls into that Raj Russell, B. Arthur.
mhm,
She had those features that not to say that not that she looked like a man, but there was an androgynous quality there.
right. Yeah.
Especially when the look was so severe. I think that those early
Mhm,
episodes are where it was. She had a very androgynous and that very raspy voice.
mhm,
So and again that bravura when she entered a room. I mean, she was a diva. You knew
Yeah.
Grayson was
Right.
in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's the kind of person. Yeah, she entered a room. You were going to look at her. You were going to
Yeah.
pay attention to her.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael,
What
I have jumped over this, and I don't want to take over the whole questioning. What questions do you have?
do you? What was the film where she spoke mostly French? It was a fashion film,
Oh, qui
and
est vous parlez Magoo?
that
Qui est
I
vous
was
parlez
just
Magoo? If
looking
you're
at that.
ever in Paris, there is a bar called Qui est vous parlez Magoo. It's in the Latin Quarter. It's around the corner from Shakespeare and Company. So,
Cool. Shakespeare and Company.
That's
We
Wow.
great.
love.
That's great.
yeah,
Her look in that movie is amazing, and you can see what you guys are talking about right now. Is that
yeah,
you can do so much with a face like that, and she looked
right. Beep,
pretty.
beep,
The same
beep,
with
beep.
the film where she was dressed in a business suit. Did she? I guess my question is, did she? I mean, of course, no, the iguana and all of those nominations, but did she have a particular part that she favored or felt more connected to than any of the others?
Oh, I don't know, since I didn't get to ask her that question myself. I do
I
think
wanted
she
to,
liked the theater most of all because as
yeah,
an actor in the theater, you're in charge. In film, it's the director,
Yeah.
film and
yeah,
television.
yeah.
I mean,
Oh
I tend to
yes.
think, not to cast any shade, but I'm going to cast some shade here. Um, when
Go.
I can distinctly tell a Dark Shadows episode if it's directed by Robert Kaplan or Leela Swift.
Oh
If
yeah.
it's Robert Kaplan, she's very subtle, seems more genuine. When it's Leela Swift, and I hear Leela Swift used to always yell, "Bigger, bigger," and I'm like, Leela, did you never watch this on a TV? It's too much. Yeah. So if people say Grayson is campy on Dark Shadows, I'll say, look who directed that episode that day, and then look for one that was directed by Kaplan, and
Yeah.
Oh,
don't see if you
brilliant.
notice a distinct difference. So, on the stage, she could have controlled that and how she was observed, but as a TV actor or a movie actor, you do what the director wants.
Yeah.
Michael, what's your favorite episode of Grayson's?
Let me think. Okay, I would have to say I love when Barnabas is forcing her to perform the atom experiments, simply because for me, of all of the, and I'm speaking absolutely genuinely here, of all of the
Sure.
characters on the series, Julia is the strongest. She may be anxious about something, but she doesn't back down from anybody. She doesn't, I mean, be it Nicholas Blair, Angelique, Barnabas, Adam, she doesn't back down. And in that episode, you get her where she's at the point where, I don't know, leave me alone for a minute. And then when she's the other one is, and Peter and I have talked about this 1,000 times. The favorite episode would be for acting and all of that when she deals with Sarah. Those scenes where she's dealing with Sarah and she's struggling with Barnabas. That whole thing, I think she really shows her chops there. But my favorite bits of hers are the scene when she's seen Sarah and she goes to the old house and she's telling Barnabas that she's seen him. And I guess after all these weeks of torment, she's getting her digs in and she says, she'll talk to anyone but you. And he walks away
Yeah.
and she says, anyone but you. And he figures. How quickly that they turn into two 12-year-olds after all of that. But that whole series of episodes are my favorite bits for.
It's so playground. It's so on the play. And then all of a sudden, when he turns to, she's she's. Wow, I guess I went a little too far.
Because he's had her for, she's been so strong through the whole thing. I mean, think of what an average person would do if they'd been put through what he was putting her through.
Sure.
Yes.
And then she's like, I got a moment where I'm going to bother this little fucker at last. I'm going to get him. And she goes for it, and I think that's the most. But she's the strongest character in the series. She is really fearless. Julia is absolutely, but those are the best actors.
I agree with you. One of the things we've talked about, we did a whole episode, RJ, on House of Dark Shadows. But it's interesting, and I'm only bringing this up because of what you just said about Kaplan versus Swift, is I think her performance in Hod's is really terrific. And I think you really get to see not only her sincere, real, dramatic, but also her timing when she enters the house and pushes her way past Barnabas,
Yes, Willie, yeah.
past Willie, I'm sorry, is she could work a frame. I mean, she just, I don't know, commanding
And it's
is the word I
comical.
would use.
She actually adds a little comedy.
She
into
does.
that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She
Yeah.
actually adds a little comedy in there. Yeah.
I say all the time, I'm grateful for the two movies because you actually get, because of what you're talking about right now, what you've seen in the show, bigger, bigger, more and more, you get a moment to see her and even Jonathan Frid without the anxiety of being live. They
Right.
do it, and it really pops. She
Good point.
really pops in both of those movies. She's just free to be. For example, when Stokes confronts her, he's not a monster.
Yeah.
You know, you get that. Oh, wait a minute, we've hit a nerve, have we? And how nasty she is to Carlotta Drake. I mean, he's terrible. Carlotta Drake is not a nice person, and I
But
agree
she's
with you
dressed
100%.
nice
I'm
and she's got
grateful.
nice makeup and hair.
Oh yeah, she looks
She
good. She's
does.
looking good.
I like that Grayson
Yeah.
got to pick her own wardrobe and
It's almost a
work on her.
variation, though, on her original Julia hair. Every time, whenever
Yeah.
anybody knocks the original, I'm like,
No.
well, basically Carlotta is wearing the same hairstyle. It's just a little bit longer and a little less
Yeah.
hairspray.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with the? It was a short-lived group in the '90s called Delight.
No.
Grooves in the heart. Look them up. I swear to God, the woman in that, the singer is going for a Grayson Hall. Look, she's so similar to Carlotta Drake, and she looks a lot like her in the movie we were just talking about, the French.
Oh yeah, the '80s band Delight, getting in the groove. That one.
That's it. You got. I swear to God, that woman stole Grayson's look. And kudos, because she does a good job, but it looks just like
I
Grayson.
think you might be onto
It
something
looks
there.
brilliant.
Well, and my
It's
pick
brilliant.
has always been if they go. I mean, we've heard about the proposed sequel series. We've all thrown our it about could it be remade, which is another episode. But yes, I do think it could be remade if they followed a certain blueprint. But even with this sequel series, I'm like, put anyone new in that you got to put in. I just
Why do you guys want it remade? It was perfect the way it was.
for the same reason I think that a lot of people are loving Salem's Lot because
But I'm not. I'm going to disagree. I didn't love Salem's Lot. I
you
didn't like the last two remakes. I only liked the first one.
okay.
Oh,
Again,
the
it's
Rob
too
Lowe
fast.
one.
They didn't have enough of the love story that starts the whole. That's the whole premise of the book. But
But then
The
there's
speed is absolutely right. You're dead
the
on about the
yeah,
speed. But anyway.
yeah.
but the NBC series. We all go on and on. Most
Mhm.
of us about oh my God, they really got fucked over, and I think they
Yeah.
did get fucked over. They were
Mhm.
onto something with that. So with that in mind, and going, I said this to Marie. This is not apocryphal. We're at Coogan's restaurant.
But
Marie Wallace, John, and
mhm.
myself. We finish our dinner. We go to our phones to check before dessert, and it says at that point, CW green lights pilot for new series. And we
Mhm.
started, and Marie said, it won't be like our series, Peter. It won't be. I said, let me just throw this at you.
Mhm.
My idea is, if you're gonna do this, you have to keep it set in 1966. It has to have 1966. If the scene for me does not work, I will refuse to watch any.
Sorry, we're having some audio interference. I don't know
Oh,
what's going on.
is there an echo?
Is it cleared up?
There was fumbling with a mic somewhere.
Oh, so
Oh,
hold on. I'll come back on screen. I am having a
okay.
major knee issue, and I had to jump out
Oh,
of screen. So this was me knocking back into frame. I apologize for that.
So what I
Oh.
pointed out was just that if it was to be said in the 60s, and Marie shot back and said, you're right, and I'll tell you why I like that idea, because what made our show so special were those flashbacks to the past. The audience loved the costume stuff.
mhm.
Now, of course, at the time, the present day was the styles, but now it would be a costume piece within a costume piece. And you can't tell me nostalgia doesn't sell. Mad Men, Downton, Mrs. Maisel, which everybody wanted another season of that. If they could bring it back and say, well, we're not going to make it exactly like it was. We're going to add some twists and turns to it. So we'll take some of those stories. Like, for example, the writing team claimed that they were skipping right into Quentin. There was no Adam in the new Dark Shadows. They were going right into Quentin. So right there, they were going to make changes to it. I just think it could be. But the shorter version of this longer way around was, in this sequel series, I think Barnabas and Julia need to be the people we know. They need to be actors who can emulate Frid and Hall. And I think there's only one lady who can do that, and her name is Judy Davis. If you asked me who the Grayson Hall of today was, it would be Judy Davis.
I love Judy Davis, and I think
I love Judy Davis too, but she's almost 70.
that's exactly what I was about to say.
Well,
is that when you're looking at a 40-ish actress like Grayson.
Except, though, that the sequel series is supposed to be set in 2024, 2025. So we have to assume that somewhere along the line, Julia did age.
So you lost me. So are you saying that if they were to emulate her in the 60s version of the show, that Judy could play her?
If in this sequel series, somehow Barnabas and Julia were brought back into it,
at what their
we're talking
age
like
would be.
cryogenics type stuff here. That at some point,
well, if anybody could do it, Dr. Julia Hoffman.
You're losing me, Peter. You're losing me.
I just think it needs to be someone who can emulate Grayson.
Well, I just
Either
think
way,
it's nice that you love it so much. You want to see it redone, but it won't be redone in a way that can satisfy us all. And this show, more than any other, has been given 4 shots at the, So let's love it for what it was and move on.
We have a lot of comments. So let's see. Angel Heart wants us to know that she loved her as Magda and in all of her roles. We agree with that. Absolutely, Angel Heart. There was a comment here from Leaf who says, in Leviathans, there's a scene where Carolyn is talking about the antique shop and Julia comments, you don't make it sound very divine. And it's almost like an outtake from Boys in the Band. So, astute observation, Leaf. And, we have a question, RJ. Why did Grayson hate the movie Satan in High Heels?
She hated how the director treated her co-star Megan Miles.
Oh, wow.
Meg Miles. There's a scene in it, if you've seen it, where she's swimming in a pond. And Meg was assured that there was going to be a small group of people and that it wasn't going to show as much of her nudity as it ended up showing. And they were all very upset by that.
Got it.
And if you can get your hands on them, guys, I don't think they're circulating anymore. But that Grayson interview with the fans is pretty. It's pretty cool. She shows all sides of herself, and she's very complimentary to the girls. Also tells them that there's a friend of theirs who's a psychopath, and they need to tell her to stop.
Yes.
Contacting people about her, and she's very sweet about it, but very
firm.
Very firm. You need to tell her to stop. That's and I know on one of the MPI documentaries, there's another interview which I don't think has surfaced, where she's talking about the differences in all the Dark Shadows actors, and they show it over home movies of her in her apartment.
Oh wow!
In her kitchen, and I'm like, oh, where are those interviews? Who has those? I wish somebody would release those interviews because
there was Shimmer knows a little bit more about that. It was a guy who lived in Vegas, I think, and I forget his name. Skips my mind right now, but he's the one who took those videos, those films. Yeah, she's cooking in her kitchen and stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you say Tim Burton?
No, Shimmerleaf. I said Shimmerleaf.
I thought you
Shimmerleaf.
said Tim Burton. I said, please, let's not go down Helena Bonham Carter Lane.
Oh yeah.
Please. Please. Although,
I don't know if we've ever said this.
I'll say Matthew did a whole blog about why he enjoyed the movie, and he said,
Yeah.
because it's not Dan Curtis's Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
He didn't agree with his mother drinking martinis at 9 a.m. in the morning, but he actually gave them props. So that's Matthew's take on it.
Since
Yeah, Matthew Hall has a blog. If folks are interested, it's out there. You can just Matthew Hall blog, and Nantucket 74 is I think what it's called. That was a pivotal year in his youth, and he talks about that in the blog.
I don't know if
He and his mother were in Nantucket rehearsing a play that summer. It was his 16th birthday.
Sweet.
Oh, how cool is that?
Sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've mentioned this before, so if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But you know, we talk a lot about Lamar and celebrating her angelversary, and her birthday is coming up in a few days. She told us a story. So that the four of them are on set. It's her, David Selby, KLS, and Jonathan, and they have just entered into the frame, and it's the four shot where you see them for the second time, and when they're cutting the camera across to the four of them, she hears this woman scream, "Cut!" Now the four of them are looking at each other, and they're like, "Who just screamed cut? Tim Burton didn't scream cut. It was Helena Bonham Carter."
Oh yeah.
Because she wasn't in the frame, and she actually called cut. I guess when you're the mother of the director's children, I guess you can do
children,
that.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, Lamar,
I think that was the last film they worked on together before they separated.
Probably.
Could be the reason.
Yeah, Lamar had fascinating memories about Grayson because she said in the beginning she didn't like me very much because she was pushing a young actress to play the part. So
and I don't know who that was.
Because it wasn't. I asked her if it was Susan Onspach because Susan and Laura auditioned together, but she said no. It was another young actress that Grayson was pushing.
I would love to know who that was.
But then over time they did soften, and they got the two dogs to try to mate, and
right.
But
no, they were colleagues. They didn't become warm, fuzzy friends. They were work colleagues.
But what did she say to Grayson one day? She said, I always noticed she was kind of, why do you do that? And she said, because I'm getting the light, dear.
Yeah. She worked in, Laura would say that. She would say, Grayson knew her key lights. She knew where the lights were. And she always knew her mark. And, she was pretty new to television. And so Laura learned a lot of that from her. Like she just instinctively knew where her stage lights were.
And can we
she says, as an older woman too, because as we age, the shadows and the light, we want that key light.
Sure.
Make us look good. Yeah.
And can we talk about the versatility as an actress in terms of the moving image? She did and was nominated for Night of the Iguana. She did House of Dark Shadows. She did That Darn Cat. She did Satan in High Heels. I mean, the woman was a working actress. She took the jobs when they came. I think there's a lot to be said for that.
And it is not her voice on the Disney Halloween album, guys.
That is true. It is not
Grayson. Sounds like her a little bit.
Oh, but she is doing a voiceover on a soft porn that you can find on YouTube.
No! Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Her name from because it was another Satan in High Heels. Like I was told it was this. My voice was going to be used this way, and the movie comes out, and it's like a soft porn.
Oh my God!
Can we know the name? Can we know the name?
You can Google. You can check. It's her name is listed in.
No. Don't put it there.
And YouTube.
No.
Yeah.
Now I want to. Okay, so that's two. So now she put a voiceover to a softcore porn, and then Seaview Terrace, which breaks your heart because as much as we love Lyndhurst, I so wished Seaview had been in the movies. But it's a porno, and there you see it in all its glory, the Collinwood Tower, and the things that are going on inside Collinwood. Woo!
Woo-wee.
Well, they got to pay that mortgage. They got to pay for those repairs.
Many years ago, Peter and I were on vacation in West Hollywood. I'm going to tell this story. Peter and I were on vacation in West Hollywood. We were having a couple intimate moment. We had
Oh God.
we turned on the adult film channel and we're watching a particular movie, being a couple. And as we're watching the movie, it's two guys in a hotel room. And as we're looking at this movie, we start looking around the room. It was filmed in the room we were in.
The Ramada on Santa Monica Boulevard. Yes.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ramada, you wanna? Good Lord.
You, Ramada, you brought it.
RJ, you had mentioned too about her, Magda, and just how much gypsy blood she actually had in her. Did she kind of exaggerate on that?
I know it was said in the fine literature of the fandom, but I can't find it might have been on her mother's side. I don't know. I don't know very much about her mother. Her mother, Eleanor, was born in South Africa, and she dreamed of being an actress, but she ended up getting married. And her father's family was from Moldova, which is by Ukraine and Russia. And so there was a story that a grandmother was traded for a goat or something. But I don't know about the gypsy stuff. I've Roma stuff in my so
And the name Magda came from a grandmother, right? Didn't she? Didn't they say she? Wasn't it that
no,
she took the name
I
Magda
don't
for
know.
her grandmother?
Like I said, I think that was all
Oh,
because I wrote the
mythos.
book, and there are some errors in it about Grayson's family because a cousin emailed me and said, so and so wasn't an uncle, he was a cousin, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, how much do you know about your late spouse's family, right? They're not major errors, but um,
Right.
Sam and Matthew didn't spend that much time with them to know all the particulars. So
Yeah.
and
Did
Sam was
she
a
get on
writer,
well
and
with
he would like
Jonathan
to tell us
Frid?
the story, and so he heard something and he turned it into, well, yeah, you got gypsies in your family or something, I don't know.
You had a
A
question,
brief
Michael.
line.
What were we saying, Michael?
I mean, and they had beautiful chemistry together, and they were dying, But Jonathan and Grayson, did they get on very well? Do you know, or were they just
I
good
think
work,
they did
good
until he
actors
backed
doing a
out of the
job?
second movie, and that was a
Oh, really?
financial hit for them. They thought the second movie, their share
Right.
of the profits would have been higher, and would have set them for life, and he backed out of it, and I think that there was some bad feelings about that.
Got it.
So
We didn't even think about
I
that.
think
I
up
get it
until then
though.
they were pretty good colleagues, and he came over a lot, and was gracious about and things he said about her. And then she was kind of catty in one of those tapes
Yes.
about how difficult how difficult times were for him. And I think a fan gave him that tape, and he heard it, and might have colored his opinion of her.
Oh,
But yeah,
oh, that was
She
kind
yeah
of cruel to do
she
to him.
she said something of it. He had done the Shelley Winters movie, The Devil's Daughter, I think it is, The Devil's Daughter,
uh-huh.
where he plays a mute. He plays Shelley Winters'
Uh,
butler, and the girls are
uh-huh.
saying, well, he doesn't have any lines, and she goes, "Good, he doesn't deserve it."
So, like I said, I think what year was that? That was probably not soon after
Yeah,
it was, and so they were still had hard feelings about that. But if she had lived and gone to festivals, I'm sure they would have been great pals again.
yeah, because when she passed,
Now
I think
somebody did. Oh, go ahead, Peter.
I'm sorry, when she passed, he did say she saved me so many times. I think was
She
the quote.
saved me every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
I'd heard
soft.
somebody, I think it was KLS, say
What's that?
that if they'd asked who she thought would have enjoyed the conventions the most, and they all sort of said Grayson. Do you think that's true? She would have really
Yeah.
enjoyed the fans.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. I think so. She liked She liked being social and, commanding an audience, and the fans would have been a great audience. So yeah, I think she would have enjoyed that.
Oh
And
yeah.
she had great stories to tell. All the different people, out in Mexico with Richard Burton and Liz Taylor at the beginning of their love affair, and when she made Quietus Vous Parlez Magoo, she stayed in Gore Vidal's apartment in Paris. So she knew a lot of really interesting
Wow.
people and had interesting stories to tell. And
She is the
she would have
only.
liked sharing that.
She is the only reason to watch Gargoyles. She
Such a
is
funny
a
scene.
trip as Mrs.
Such a
Parks
funny scene.
with the curlers
Yeah.
coming and flirting with Cornell Wilde. Oh my
Right.
God, she is just a trip.
So good.
She
You read my
is.
mind about the flirting.
Oh,
Oh,
That's
that's
so hilarious.
that's my favorite scene.
and again, there she's expressing all this comedic prowess
Right.
that she could be a funny actress as well. And I believe on the tape with the girls, she dies. They string her up by her legs,
In Night of the
and
Gargoyles.
in Gargoyles, and they wanted her.
Gargoyles,
Gargoyles.
sorry. That's
They
what I meant.
wanted her to do
Yeah.
that, and she's like, "I'm not
And
doing
she
that."
refused. Yeah.
And the girl,
I'm not doing my own stunt.
they did a close up where she, like, I guess, leaned on a board just
Right.
very quickly. But the girl who did it, like, they kept her up there too long. The blood rushed to her
Oh,
head,
God.
and she almost
Yeah.
died.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
But as Mrs. Parks, she is priceless.
Oh, my God.
She really is. The way she
Yeah.
holds the glass is even funny. She's got it in her hand like somebody's
Right.
going to take it.
Oh, she
Yeah.
goes.
Right. Exactly. Like somebody's gonna take it. She's running to the police station up in that ditch and still got her drink.
She's still got the, yeah. She knows where the sheriff keeps the booze.
That's right.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch her hanging there. I have to tell you, as a Dark Shad, it's hard to watch Julia dead hanging, and it's hard to watch Barnabas kill her in House of Dark
House of
Shadows.
Dark
You don't
Shadows.
want that to
Yeah.
happen. It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Not Julia.
I got to see some great
crazy.
clips of her as Euphemia. Is it Euphemia in One Life to Live?
Uh-huh.
She
You
really
hear all
great.
yeah.
Yes, but no one has
Yeah.
posted because none of them were in the same storyline. But you had, I believe, Nancy, Anthony George, Grayson, and somebody else. And I guess they said you've got to figure it out that there is a moment where they all wind up in the same room and go like,
And they say something yeah.
right?
Have I met you before?
Haven't we
Or-
met
yeah.
before? Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Right.
But it's a little
The,
Dark
um,
Shadows reunion.
Mark
Yeah.
Goddard and
Here,
June
and here's just a
Lockhart
little
were in.
tidbit, 'cause I have all
Go
this
ahead.
weird stuff in my head, but if you see the clips, Grayson has a butler. If you've seen the clips, that is James Earl Jones's father. So
Oh.
I didn't realize that. Oh my God.
Whoa.
yeah, his name is
Earl
something
Jones.
Earl Jones. I forget his
Yeah,
first name now.
but he
Robert?
went by Earl Jones. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's wild.
Wow.
Yeah. He plays Lincoln, her butler. Yeah.
She,
So
and
anyways,
So people want us to by the way, Pickup was the name of the softcore porn 1974.
there
there
we
you
go.
go. There it is.
And
Who
Shim-
looked that up and shared it with us?
Shimmer, it was Shimmerleaf. But Shimmerleaf also wants us to know, I have to put this one on screen because it's going to sound to me like I'm making it up. So let me put this on screen. Grayson's Playtex commercial needs to be seen. She gloated to a
Yeah.
friend about doing it back in 1970.
Oh my God. Is that
I
what?
follow somebody on social media who I don't remember if it's on TikTok or where it's at, that finds all these old commercials, and I've asked them to look for it, and they keep looking. But
Oh, I would love to
So
see
they
it.
haven't
I
found it.
remember it as a kid. She's in a white. Like I said, as a kid, I apparently really responded to her. She's in a white jacket with a clipboard, I think.
Oh, wow.
Somebody's got to find
That's hysterical. Oh my God. I would love to
Yeah.
see that.
For those fans and friends out there, if you know of anybody, or because
I think one of my
how many
favorite.
videotape things pop up all the time? Go ahead.
I think there are two things I love. There's a photo of her. I don't know if it's outside the studio where she is munching a hot dog, And it's so not Grayson. It's so not Grayson. It's like, I love seeing that side of her.
That's awesome.
And then the other is that when the show went off the air that final day, everybody was crying, and she was like, "What the hell are you all crying about? You're losing one paycheck. I'm losing two."
That's right.
Oh, right. Oh.
Yes, indeed.
Totally.
Yep.
Totally. And I could totally hear her saying that.
One of the things I know we're going to have to wrap up here shortly, but one of the things I wanted to mention about her dramatic acting is I love the scenes where she realizes that her only way to survive is to assist in the killing of Dr. Woodard. And just that whole arc and the emotions that she goes through, she was a great actress. I really just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, again, for her, it's interesting that the people that have the staying power, Jonathan saying, "I'm not going to play a monster. We've got to give him something to play. I'm not going to play Bela Lugosi." And you've got that. She infuses the subtext of being in love with him, and the writers and the audience picks up on it. Laura did the same thing with Angelique because she didn't play. She made her sympathetic. She didn't just play a witch. All of the ones that had the staying power on the show, they gave these characters layers. And one of my favorite moments, again, it's so rare that we get comedy in Dark Shadows, but when Barnabas wants to go into the past to save Vicky and he wants the herb from Professor Stokes, and he says, "Well, you'd have to be from another century." And Barnabas says, "How do you know I'm not from another century?" And Grayson's like, she does like a Danny Thomas spit take.
Right.
It's one of my favorite Grayson moments.
At the end of when Angelique is shot, and that whole she chases the Trask, the last one. So Grayson comes in the room, and now she's been toe to toe with all these demons and monsters and so forth because of Angelique. And I know that they even had their moments where Angelique and Dr. Hoffman sort of connected. But when he says to her, I loved her, Julia, and something along the lines of, "It's always been her, and I shall never love again." And the look on her face is like, "Christ, here we go again." I think she even does that kind of like head up thing she does where she's like.
And again, another poor Leela Swift apparently direction. Our angers many Barnabas and Julia fans. I was thinking as we come to close, there's so many great Grayson clips, but the one that's popping in my mind is actually from the 1995 storyline when she's all alone. Barnabas hasn't, I think, arrived yet, and she's all alone, hanging up in a room up in one of the wings, and just kind of sitting in a rocking chair, all alone, lost in time.
Yeah,
she looks so forlorn and so sad, and that sticks in my mind.
Oh, that's great.
Presentation.
Yeah, there are so many great, and I do love it when anytime she zings it to Barnabas, I do love those. And even with Angelique, you just mentioned, stay away from him. He's a cold, callous man, yada yada. She goes on, and she just looks at Laura and says, "Who made him that way?"
Yeah.
It's
Are you in love with him?
Bitter pill.
Not as much as you.
Yes.
Peter, what's the line about the bitter pill? That must be a bitter pill to swallow.
You have to forego an appointment with Vicky. That must be a bitter pill to swallow. Spare me the sarcasm, Doctor.
Oh my God, that's great.
Well, first of all, if you have not read Grayson Hall, Hard Act to Follow by R.J. Jameson, you have to. Is there any chance that we could get an Audible version of this?
I was just about to ask the question.
Well, let's think about it. Let's talk about it.
Maybe Catherine could read it because she's been doing all the readings.
Yeah.
But that would be really cool to have an Audible version of it.
Yeah.
We're putting that out into the ether.
Put it out there. We'll think about it. Yeah.
You've heard us, Miss Hall. You've heard us.
Yeah. Make it happen. Make it happen.
Yes. Yeah, we would love to have an audible version of it.
This has been one of my favorite episodes.
This has been a lot of... Well, first of all, we've never had a surprise guest before. We've never, had...
And I was home on a Friday night.
Oh,
What
it was
else was there
great.
to do?
That made it amazing.
This is where we go from Dark Shad-Bros to Dark Shad-Pros. So,
or Penny Dreadful, who said, with me on the show now, it's Dark Shad Hose.
Dark Shadows. Well, that's Penny.
That's Penny. That's Danielle.
Penny.
Yes, we love Penny.
Love.
Michael, closing thoughts on Miss Hall.
I just want to kind of repeat. Well, first of all, I just want to repeat what I said earlier. That we're talking about an actress who the range was incredible, but not only her range, but like to go back if you haven't watch her other work. I'm getting into this kind of mode right now because of Maggie Smith only being recognized as McGonagall. Go watch these people, their other work, and then watch her in the two films, and so you can really experience the full range of this woman's talent. That's my final thought. Don't just watch Dark Shadows and know her for that. Know her other stuff. She's really an incredible presence. She has the presence of a Broadway stage actress. Go for it. Watch it.
Well, to that point, this is the most watched episode we've done. So the fact that we are talking about Grayson Hall to this day and we have this amount of viewership really is a testament to both the woman and the actress. So this is remarkable, quite frankly. Babe?
Wow.
To quote George DeCenzo, she was a fabulous, gutsy broad, and I'm glad she walked across my universe.
Oh, I love that quote.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
That's so George DeCenzo. That's so George DeCenzo. For me, I mean, again, just as a young queer, and it is National Coming Out Month, and that's why I did want to bring up that she has a huge tie to the gay community and to female impersonators. There are so many people we've known over time that said she was an inspiration to them. And again, I think the reason we love her so much, for me, is the reason I love so many of my divas. Strong and ballsy, but yet with this lovely, vulnerable side to them. And I think that's what I picked up on. There's that whole idea of Julia and Barnabas in that same way with the gay man and his flame dame who knows she can never have him. And yet, she's always got his back. She's always got his back, no matter how snarky and sarcastic he is to her. She's always got his back, and that's for me. I love that. I love that. RJ.
Oh, that was my quote for the evening. She was a fabulous, gutsy broad, and I'm glad she walked across my universe.
Now remember, guys, you want to watch. You always want to watch. Make sure that nobody is coming in front of you and doing one of these things, and saying, have you found that?
Look into the crystal.
Look into the
center.
The center, Vicky. Look into the center. Have you ever tried to find the center of a good piece of crystal?
Genius. Just genius.
So we love you, Grayson. We love you, love you, love you. We'll have to do a whole other show about you. And actually, next up, guys, it's going to be a salute to our dear friend, Lamar Hawkins, Mary Lamar Rickey, Laura Parker, in honor of her, what would have been her 86th birthday. So stay tuned for that coming up. And remember to like and click, click like and follow us on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us a lot. And you can watch past episodes on YouTube under the Mac and Chat channel, as well as Dark Shad-Bros. Did I miss anything on that?
Nope, you didn't miss anything. So I think we are done here. We'll see you guys next with our Laura Parker tribute. Do not hang up, RJ. And
okay.
See you on the other side.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Adios.